Good afternoon. My name is Peter Tsakissiris, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Chief Information Security Officer, also known as the CISO, for our university. I was hired 3 months ago to build and evolve a best-of-a-kind cybersecurity capability. I would like to thank you for the invitation to come today and inform you of the current status of cybersecurity within our university. I want to make one thing very clear before I begin. In the digital age, no organisation can meet their mission, therefore we cannot meet our mission without a best-of-a-kind cybersecurity capability that continues to evolve. Over the next 15 minutes, we'll be going through the following, and the key intent of our program is to make the New Age University the most secure university in the world. I just want to touch on one thing on this slide. Gartner has reported cyber incidents have increased in universities by 40% compared to other industries of 22%. Now, this is supported by the breaches we've had at our university and also the cyber incidents at University of Sydney, QUT, ANU, and last week in the University of Wollongong. The time is to act now. The key drivers for cyber security program within our university are sustaining business operations and protecting business assets from growing trends. Number 2, to be part of a community of best practices that collaborates and shares cyber intelligence and lessons learned with the higher education sector and the government. And thirdly, to comply with government and industry regulatory requirements. They are the key drivers for our strategy. Our priorities for our cybersecurity program are as follows. Number 1, we want to strengthen the governance and the leadership of cybersecurity across the university. We want to enhance the protection and resilience of the university's information assets and systems. We want to build and sustain a positive and proactive cybersecurity culture. We want to participate and contribute to the cybersecurity community of best practice within the higher education and the government. The internal stakeholders knowing their role is extremely important in a cybersecurity program. I have a particular ask for you. I'd like you to read through this slide after the presentation today, and for you to be aware of all the stakeholders and who their responsibilities are. I don't have time to cover it today, but I'm more than happy to discuss this at a later stage. So now I've got some good news and bad news. The good news is that we've done a complete review against the NIST cybersecurity framework against their profiling, and we know where we are. Unfortunately, we're at the bottom of the level, which is a partial. However, the positive news is that we do have a plan to move forward. We did a detailed review against the 5 functions of the NIST cybersecurity framework. Now, where we want to get to, within 6 months' time, we want all of these categories to be at medium in 6 months' time. Then in 12 to 18 months, we want some from critical ones to go to a high level of maturity. And what I propose that every quarter, I come back and I'll report on the progress of this. Okay, we did a detailed risk analysis of 5 critical business priorities and then 5 threats for each business priority. What I aim to do today is I'm going to just go through quite at a high level their high priority business asset that we reviewed, and then that'll give you an opportunity to have some context so you can then read about it a bit later on post the board meeting. The first one we did was a shared asset research facilities and enabling infrastructure. The reason why I chose that one is due to the importance of our shared assets that in the programs we're doing with other universities and other partners. And you can see the key threats: cyber espionage, malware, DOS, which I'll take you through in the next topic, internal threats as staff and USB mail, and attack such as the man in the middle. However, we do have mitigation risks for all of those. On the business asset, patents, copyright, scientific research, intellectual property, I am doing a deep dive of this in the next agenda item, so I will park this one until then. Due to the importance of our corporate financial data, student employee data, we did do a full analysis on this, and as you can see, the threats: malware, social engineering, data breach, insider threats, and ransomware. Once again, we have mitigation in place for all of these. The next asset was around our core systems, databases, and databases. The final one was around, the asset was about our employees' hardware, the laptops and phones. And as you can see from the right hand side, this did score relatively low from a risk score perspective, so we're pretty confident about this one. I'm now going to take you through a deep dive against the key business asset of patents, copyrights, scientific research, intellectual property. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the risk. Are we going to mitigate it? Are we going to transfer it? Are we going to avoid it or accept it? And then I'll take you through the appropriate cyber attack life cycle as well. Okay, these are the first three threats for that business risk. First one is cyber theft. As you can see, we've marked it as critical. We know we do have some network infrastructure devices and non-core software applications that are not at the latest patch levels. That's why it's a risk. We're going to mitigate it, and we believe we can. And what are we going to do? We're going to implement security protocols. We're going to keep all IT infrastructure software patched up to date. We're going to encrypt data. We're going to use security analytics to closely monitor and inspect network traffic. We're going to enforce file transfer application policies, and we're going to educate users on cyber theft. On the right-hand side, you can see the particular stage of the cyber attack lifecycle. The next one is an internal threat, which is employees leaving their USB unattended or emailing documents home. We believe it's critical impact because our IP sensitive, that people can get a hold of. However, we do believe it is low risk. Therefore, we are going to avoid it, and we're going to make sure people do not do this. The next one is a threat called social engineering attack. Again, very critical because our IP could be compromised. It's medium. We've classified it as medium because we do believe we do need some better password policies in place. And then our preventative actions, proactive actions are we want to continue to educate employees on how to identify phishing scams and other malicious content. We want to enforce user access controls. We want to keep all IT equipment patched up to date with a proper plan. We also partition our networks. We want to use security and analytics to closely monitor and inspect network traffic. The final two threats for this high priority business assets is a data breach. A data, as you know, is critical. We know there's medium priority. The actions around this one are we want to make sure access control assessment needs to be reviewed. We haven't reviewed that for over a year, so we'll be doing that more proactively. We want to review all the firewalls and antivirus software to ensure they're on the latest patching levels. We also want to make sure we've got tools and programs used to monitor and inspect network traffic, and that needs to be reviewed. And we want to make sure we've got our incident response plan implemented. So we will do those. We will mitigate the risk. The final one, which is ransomware, again, critical impact to IP. We believe this one is high. We do believe we will be able to mitigate it. We need to ensure our antivirus system protection, and we want to install anti-malware is current. Anti-malware is nowhere near across as many devices as it should be. And more importantly, we haven't trained our staff in malware and ransomware prevention proactively. So we'll continue to do that, and that will mitigate this risk. We're now going to do a deep dive into a critical threat, which is a distributed denial of service. And the reason why I've chosen this one is because DDoS attacks are a key challenge for all types of business across all industries and can cause significant revenue loss and brand reputation. They are becoming more common. They can cause significant downtime. They can lead to data theft as well. And they can violate various laws and regulations. Now, they are on the rise. And this is the one threat that we will do more than everything in our power to make sure we mitigate. I'm now going to take you through each stage of the life cycle and talk to you about the protective and preventive actions that we have in place or we're putting in place for a DDoS attack. Firstly, for reconnaissance, we're ensuring that our software performs continuous inspections on network traffic flows to detect and prevent port scans and host sweeps. We will implement lunch and learn sessions for security awareness training so users are more mindful about what should and shouldn't be posted on public platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Then in the weaponization and delivery part of the lifecycle, we will gain full visibility into all traffic, including SSL and block high-risk applications, and extend those to also remote and mobile remote devices. We will ensure all network infrastructure and applications are up to date with the latest security patches. to prevent vulnerabilities on our network, and we'll also implement email filtering and blocking to prevent publishing attacks. The next phase is the attack lifecycle's exploitation. We will detect unknown malware and automatically deliver protections globally to stop new attacks. We'll provide ongoing security education to our users, particularly on spear phishing. We'll implement rate limiting to restrict the amount of traffic that can be sent to servers. We will use web application firewalls to filter out malicious activity. The next phase is installation. We will enforce user controls, monitor and inspect traffic, implement anti-software that removes and detects malware, and very importantly, we're going to deploy anti-DOS architecture. We're going to harden our configured resources against updating and changing settings on the network, and we'll also continue to train users to be able to identify the unknowns on the network. The next phase is command and control. In this phase, we'll identify gaps in security and assess potential threats to our setup. We'll update any protection software or technology and ensure it's working correctly. We will block outbound .coms to malicious URLs. We'll implement granular application control so authorized applications have access only. The final one, which is action objectives. We will implement disaster recovery plans, develop a denial of service defense strategy, develop a clear strategy and plan. We'll continue to educate yourselves on DDoS attacks, and we'll simulate DDoS attacks at regular times throughout the year so we are better prepared. I'm now going to take you through an incident response plan for a data breach. Now, the incident response plan outlines the roles and responsibilities, procedures, and actions to take in the event of a data breach. As we know, data is used for the following core strategic business objectives: student outcomes, research productivity, operation efficiency, and student enrollment, and any data breach could impact any of these. When referring to data, these are the four types of data: public data, internal data, confidential data, and restricted data. The following are the key people that are in our incident response team: the senior management, the CISO, incident coordinator, the legal team, the public relations team, the human resources, and the external parties. I'm now going to take you through the 5 stages of an incident response plan, talk about some actions, and also go through some legislation requirements. First stage is preparation. This is where we establish a data breach response team with clear roles and responsibilities. We will develop and update a data breach response plan that defines the process, criteria, and thresholds for identifying, reporting, and managing data breaches. We'll acquire and maintain the proper infrastructure and tools to detect, analyze, and mitigate data breaches. We'll conduct regular risk assessments and audits. We will educate and raise awareness among the staff, students, and partners about data protection policies and practices. We'll conduct regular exercises and simulations to test the plan. We'll review and update the plan by incorporating feedback, lessons learned, and best practices from previous incidents. The legislation requirements that are super critical are the Privacy Act 1988, the Notifiability Data Breach Scheme, the Higher Education Standards, and the Australian Cyber Security Centre. In this stage, which is identification, this is where we identify the threat. So to identify it, we monitor and log it. We triage and prioritize. We confirm the scoping where the team validates the existence and the nature of the incident. We'll report and escalate it. And the stakeholders at this stage will include internal and external parties. Now, what's important is how we report on what we found. And we'll follow the Privacy Act, which universities must apply to. And also, we'll make sure the university staff are aware of the actual suspected data breach. And we'll record the details of the data breach in the data breach form as per the policies. This next stage is when we contain the risk. This is where we identify the effective hosts or systems, where we use our tools such as network scanners, antivirus software, or forensic tools. We isolate the effective hosts or the systems by disconnecting them from the network and shutting them down. We also we would change our passwords. And importantly, we'd preserve the evidence by making copies of logs, files, and memory dumps. And we'll start assessing the impact by estimating the extent of data loss, exposure, or corruption. The next phase is eradication, where we'll delete or disable any malicious accounts, files, processes, or services that were created or used by the attackers. We restore any compromised data or systems from backups or reinstall them from scratch. We update our patching software or hardware. Where there are vulnerabilities, we continue to change our passwords or credentials that may have been exposed or stolen, and we perform a scan on the entire network to ensure there are no traces of the threat to remain. Last phase is recovery, where we restore data from backups or reinstalling systems from scratch if they are corrupted or compromised during the incident. We test and verify the functionality and security of the restored systems or data before returning them to normal operation. We update or patch any software or hardware that may still have vulnerabilities. We perform a scan on the entire network to ensure that no traces of a threat remain. And this is where we also learn from our lessons learnt. I hope you feel you are more informed now on the status of cybersecurity within the university. With the right focus, governance and support, cybersecurity is not a burden, but an opportunity for us to lead and excel in the digital age. I'd like to thank you for your continual support and your investment of your time and the dollars to help us make New Age University the most cyber-secured university on the planet. Thank you.